Welcome back to Triathlon Training Explained, powered by TRAININGPEAKS. Now, as you can see, this week we have headed to the pool up at Team Bath Training Centre because we're going to be delving into bilateral breathing.
Bilateral is otherwise known as both sides. So simply put, bilateral breathing is breathing to both your left-hand side and to your right-hand side. You might find that you actually have a preferential side that you like to breathe to, you're comfortable breathing to both sides, or actually you just can't breathe to one side at all.
Yeah, well, we're going to be taking a closer look at the technique of breathing and then the how and why you want to master bilateral breathing. You might be completely happy breathing to just one side, but there are occasions when undoubtedly it is useful to be able to swap sides. Say, for example, you're lane swimming and you have to swim in the other direction and you want to be able to keep an eye on where the lane rope is. Or for me personally, if I'm swimming in a pool that's got no lane ropes, for example, and I need to see where the wall is to know that I'm going in a straight line, I'll be breathing on the right one side and then I'll need to swap to breathe on the other side.
However, most relevantly perhaps for triathlon, bilateral breathing really comes in handy in the open water scenario. You might well have glare, sun, waves, chop, or even just lots of people to any one of your sides, and the ability to be able to breathe to the other will really be able to save you an awful lot of time and effort throughout the course of the race.
Bilateral breathing, once perfected, can help keep your strokes smooth and symmetrical, and it also helps to work your core and your shoulders evenly. And if, for example, you have an injury for some reason, then you can just breathe to whichever side is more comfortable for that.
And also, if, for example, you miss an extra breath or when you're racing, you're under pressure, I often try and sneak an extra breath, so breathe to one side and then directly breathe to the other side. It's not so easy, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it's an option.
As we've mentioned, bilateral breathing means breathing to either side, but there's no rule that says how often you have to breathe. So it doesn't necessarily have to be every 3 strokes. For example, you could breathe every 2 strokes, concentrating on the right-hand side, then hold your breath for 3, move it to the left, do a few on that side, etc. Or if, say, you're concentrating on doing drills or form, or you're doing pull where you're not going to need quite as much oxygen, then you might find that you're happy to breathe every 5 strokes.
So that's enough discussing why to do bilateral breathing. Let's have a look at the how. Now, the key to being able to breathe comfortably when swimming is very closely linked to how we rotate our body when we're swimming the front crawl stroke. For more information on this, check out the video where we focus purely on rotation, and find that in the description below. You're going to need good mobility through your trunk and your shoulder and your neck regions, but having said that, once you've mastered the art of the rotation, you really shouldn't need to move your head that much, just a subtle tilt to both sides.
Okay, well, I think it's time we took a look at the drills that will get you feeling comfortable breathing on either side. Right, for this first one, we're going to strip it right back and we're going to take arms out altogether. But don't worry, you are going to be allowed to use some fins. So this is going to be over-exaggerating the amount of rotation that you'd actually need in your normal stroke, but it should at least help to give you the feel. So it's going to be kicking only. You're going to have one arm fully extended and the other arm by your side. Now, the extended arm needs to be the one that's the lower side, and the arm by your side is going to rest on top. So if you imagine you're parallel to the wall or the lane rope, and then your underneath arm is going to be extended out along underneath your other arm on top, and you can really focus purely on that rotation for one length in one direction, swap over and come back on the other side.
So for this single arm drill, you can leave the fins on if you want, as it's going to make it a lot easier to focus on your form because you're only going to be using the one arm. Your spare arm needs to be kept beside your side, and that'll help encourage the rotation, because without that, you're going to be really struggling to create the power in your stroke. So this is when breathing gets harder unless you've got enough rotation. You're going to be breathing to the opposite side of your pulling arm. So as you're pulling your arm through the water, think about your body rotating the opposite direction, which should mean that your head doesn't have to move that much to get the air required to take your breath.
Right, now we're going to incorporate both arms, but it's not yet full stroke. This is still very much a drill. You're going to pause between every stroke. So when your one arm is extended, one arm is by your side, you're going to hold that position for 6 kicks. So your body will be fully rotated, so you're parallel to the wall, and then you turn over to the other side, having done a stroke, and hold for 6 kicks again. If you want, you can use fins, but they are optional.
So now's the time to put the stroke back together without having to focus on the timing of your breathing. And that's where the snorkel comes in really useful, as it allows you to keep your head completely still while swimming, but without actually having to worry about your breathing. And if you do this following the previous drills that we've talked about, you don't really have to think about the rotation so much because you've been over-exaggerating it beforehand. Now we should hopefully find that the correct amount should really feel like your new normal.
This one is a generic breathing drill that will help you to relax. So once you've taken your breath in, you're going to slowly trickle your breath out until you need to take another breath in. And the idea of this, it'll help you to relax and for your stroke to be nice and smooth. And you can actually incorporate this drill into any of your other drills as well.
So once you've practiced breathing on both your sides and you've reconstructed your stroke back together, it's really easy to still favour your more dominant side for breathing. Don't forget about your weaker side, and in your training try and incorporate breathing solely to that side, be it your right or your left, just to make sure that you're comfortable doing that if you need to in a race.
But this drill actually doubles as hypoxic breathing because you're forced to hold your breath naturally than you would do normally. So you breathe 3 strokes, then you hold your breath for 5 strokes, and then up to 7. So you're automatically breathing on either side. Once you get to 7, go back to 3 and build back up. If you find this really easy or you want to push yourself a little bit more, you can add in 9 strokes at the end. And it's great for just helping you to stay smooth and forcing you to breathe on your side you're least comfortable when you're starting to feel a little bit desperate for air. There are a few things to be aware of if you're introducing bilateral breathing to your stroke. Excessive and unnecessary head movement can start to creep in. So just make sure between breaths, you always bring your head back to the midline, just as you would if you were breathing to one side. And the same goes for body snaking, because if you start to move your head side to side as opposed to rotating it, the rest of your body will follow in a snaking type action.
And of course, if you want to get the full benefit of bilateral breathing, you really must keep practicing and swimming regularly, so in a race situation it just becomes second nature. For more videos, click the globe here, and that rotation video I discussed earlier, find that here.
And if you want to see the video that we made specifically on breathing, that is just here.